is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Justified, Season 6, Episode 6, A Live Day. In this episode, another weird fucking title. Shockingly, it turns out that Ava's uncle isn't working in good faith with Boyd. Nobody saw that coming. I saw that coming. Welcome to Unspoiled.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I'm fighting for my soul, God get at you, boy. You try to blow God, fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some?
Saw through his clever ruse, huh?
When he says, "Oh, go grab that thing," and Boyd falls through, I was like, this motherfucker set that shit up. And then when he's like, "Oh, you should go up top and get some sunshine," I'm like, this is weird. Why do you want him gone? Is it so you can shove the other guy down the shaft? Oh, and there he goes. Yeah, I figure it's like some revenge thing, but I don't really know really if that's what it is. Like, because it does seem like he could use some money. Maybe he's hoping to get rid of some of his other dudes so they don't have to split it as many ways.
Okay.
But yeah, I knew he was up to something. I just don't really know what his motivation is there. But
sure.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Hi, I'm Natasha.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alan. And we are closing in on the end of Justified.
I can't believe this. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where next episode is going to be smack dab in the middle of the season, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, as close as we get to a smack dab in the middle with 13 episodes.
Yeah.
But yes. Yeah, things are ramping up. Stuff is happening. People are falling down mine shafts.
And my guy is gone. I knew it. Yeah, I knew he was going to be gone.
I was going to ask you when we should start playing Candle in the Wind in the background.
This is such a bummer. Like, I knew it was coming. I mean, I said last episode, I think they're going to have to kill him because he's just going to fuck up. And they all came to that conclusion also. But the fact that he died sticking up for them makes me so sad. Like, that adds such an insult to injury. And when his car stops, I thought he had just decided to kill himself in a very poetic way. And then I was sort of laughing because the train is able to brake in time, which nobody ever sees that coming. And he is dead anyway. Because I was like, oh, good, he failed. He's still... Nope, he's dead. And I'm just so sad because he's such a big dumb sweetie, even though he, kills lots of people. So, yeah, that probably should have been my intro. But I was just distracted by A Live Day. What a weird name.
It is a super weird name. I was a little surprised that was the intro you went with. Yeah, I definitely expected there to be a choo-choo memorial.
A little peek behind the scenes. I don't always put that much thought into my intros. I know that's shocking to everybody. Probably just take a seat and get your breath, everybody, after that revealing bit of news. But yeah, sometimes I lose track of the main thing. I think maybe in this case because I just don't want to think about it. Because he was this crew. Sometimes the bad guys, you're still sort of rooting for them in a way, or rooting for some of them at least. Last season, the Crows. At least I wanted. Now I've forgotten all their names. But, the boy and his mom to get okay, to be in a good place. What's that?
Wendy and Kendall.
Thank you, Kendall. I was going with Brennan in my head. I'm like, where did I get that?
It's not a Kentucky name.
Right? I don't know. I feel like I'm mixing that with something that I was just reading for the book club. But this crew, I have no stakes in anymore. He was the one guy that I had any sort of compassion towards. And now that he's gone, it's Avery, Beardy, and that salmon guy. And
you got those names right.
Yeah, I figure. And they're both awful. Like, Beardy at least feels like he's got some compassion because he didn't want to take out his friend, but he was still going to do it.
Yep.
And, Big Bass Shop over here is just a shitbag. I really just don't like him, just straight up.
Oh, yeah. No, he's, in my mind, he is very much the worst of the bunch because he's just such a dick about everything.
Mm-hmm.
We've never seen him be pleasant.
And, I have no problem with being a dick when it's warranted, but he's just that way no matter what the situation. And he was rude to my friend. So, yeah. So this crew, basically, I'm just kind of like, I feel a little bummed in a way because I like to be able to have somebody on the opposing side that I'm rooting for, and not having that is a bit, it makes everything feel so one-sided that I'm afraid that I'm going to get bored. So I hope that I don't get bored.
I also hope that you don't get bored.
Yeah.
I hope that you can be satisfied that, when they go down, if they go down, perhaps they pull the whole thing off and, come out the day as victors. But
I'm sorry, but when you say, I hope that you can be satisfied when they go down and hope they pull the whole thing off, that's comedy. Same, Alan.
I believe the term is phrasing. Yeah.
Oh, God. So, yeah, this episode.
But we will see if it can keep your attention.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, this episode is Season 6, Episode 6, Alive Day.
Mm-hmm.
It is written by Benjamin Cavill. This is his 14th of 16 episodes Justified. And Jennifer Kennedy, this is the only thing that she wrote for the show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We don't have a lot of one-offs, but that's it. It was directed by Peter Werner. This is his last episode, 9th of 9 for Justified. He previously did Hatless back in Season 1,
Right on.
Eye of the Storm, the episode with the Oxybus, a couple in Season 3. He did Foot Chase in Season 4, and Whistle Past the Graveyard last season, which is where we meet Uncle Jack. Who goes,
okay.
Yeah. So those are all Peter Werner. This is his final episode of Justified. And we open by almost not too long after we left off. Boyd returns home to find that Raylan did stick around, like he said that he just might.
Yeah, I'm really not entirely sure what Raylan's deal is this episode, because at one point Tim's asking him, like, why is Ava trying to, be a good CI again? And he's just sort of like, oh, what do you think? And lets him sort of think that, oh, I'm fucking her again. At least that was how it felt to me, like he was insinuating that. And I don't really know what, like, if he, like, first, why does he want people to believe that? If that is what he's saying. Like, am I wrong? Did I interpret that wrong? Is that what you think he was meaning when he said it?
No, that's definitely the implication I got from it also. I think there is a type of guy who is more than happy to throw those kind of implications out there whenever he can, but Raylan doesn't seem like somebody who needs to do that. So, it's definitely, it's not something that makes sense. It doesn't make professional sense for him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense just in terms of gossip and whatever. Certainly not in terms of his reputation in the office as a decent marshal, which he doesn't have. So I guess it's not a whole lot to, stand up to. But, it doesn't make a lot of sense in that way. I mean, I think this move makes sense from the perspective of let's let Boyd see me around you and him, so that way it's not, it sets a precedent for if it happens again, but we don't ever get that kind of explanation. Instead, he's just here.
Yeah. And
we just have to take it on good faith that he did that intentionally.
Yeah, I just don't like, it feels like he's trying, and this doesn't make any sense, because what I would like to think is that he's like trying to sow seeds to throw Boyd off on purpose, for it to get back around that, oh, did you hear that that guy is boning Boyd's girl again? Like, to fuck with Boyd's head.
Okay.
And I only say I'd like to think that because at least there's a strategy there. But
Sure.
there's no reason Tim would like circulate that information, I don't feel like. Yeah. And I don't see how that information gets back to Boyd, even if Tim did circulate that information. Like, who's going to blab that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We've never gotten the impression there's like an office leak or anything like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just sort of like was sitting here like, what is your game? Do you have one? Or are you just being an idiot? Like, it feels out of character for him to just wander around talking about this kind of thing too. I don't know. So I'm just sort of, the whole way that he handled this and greeting Boyd in the house when he came home, and I guess he was, because he says to Ava later when she calls him, well, when he said worrying about the future, that's when I knew that I could leave. Like, so he is trying to act like he stayed to make sure Boyd wasn't going to kill her. Mm-hmm. And that Boyd still felt Ava was loyal to him. Which, okay, but you don't, like, need to be in the house, right? You don't need to be quite so obvious about it. And if he did suspect, why would he show it in front of Raylan? Why, like, if he did think that Ava was working with Raylan, there's no reason why he would break in front of him and Ava and give away that he has got that information. You know? Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you are wrong. I think those are a lot of good questions. We will see, you know, if they get answered, how they get answered. Let me rewind a second and ask you a more basic question. So the end of last episode, the implication was that maybe they were going to sleep together. Do you think that happened?
I don't think so. I really don't get that sense. But if they did, that's awful. Like, and not just because I hate the two of them together, but Raylan, you've made some really questionable, shitty choices anyway in your life. Mm-hmm. But if you're violating her trust like that and taking advantage of her, that's fucked up. And I'm not forgiving him for that, if that's what's happening here. Okay.
And you're right. That this episode doesn't seem to indicate that really. Mm-hmm. It's just a nice tagline to end the last episode on and then turn the tables on you when this one starts. But we don't really get that answer. And he is walking around like, yeah, like maybe it did happen, but...
The only thing I can think is that by the time Boyd gets home, that chicken's already made, and she's not going to have time to fuck a guy and make fried chicken before Boyd gets home. Like,
this is true.
Fried chicken takes a while.
Nope, good point. Good point. Now, one of the things that happens here, now Raylan is here to talk to Boyd about Dewey Crow, and Boyd points him towards Avery Markham. And they have this sort of, it's a lot of like a veiled conversation about a lot of different things. But among others is Ava. And one, I like her face during that entire conversation. Mm-hmm. But two, also, do you think that this is a chance for Raylan to, one, see his reaction to Avery Markham's name, and two, see how Boyd acts around Ava to see just how on board he is with her?
Yeah. Okay. I could see that. The Avery Markham thing, I'm a little bit like, well, he could do that anywhere, you know, but
true.
To see how Boyd is treating her and how sincere that seems to be, that makes sense. Like, even if you don't think Boyd's going to break in front of you, he might not be that good a liar. I would think he is because he does what he does. But to be honest, there's very little in this show of Boyd really straight up lying.
That's true.
Usually the person he's talking to knows very well that he did something, and Boyd knows that they know, and they don't get into him having to deny it. They just immediately go to, you can't prove that I was there, that kind of thing. There's
That's
never a
point.
real straight up just like, no, I had nothing to do with that. What? So I think the closest that we get really to just a straight lie is him pretending that he doesn't know anything about what happened to, what's his name? Dewey.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, what did he get up to? Which that is a good lie.
Right.
Just straight up being like, oh, that fucking kid, what's he up to now?
Yeah, that's true. We don't really. He is better at dancing around things than actually having to lie. Also, I like during this conversation Boyd's reaction once he sort of composes himself is that Raylan should sit down and have dinner with them, and there's a bunch of little things like just sort of vocabulary is not good tonight, but but just all of these little pleasantries that are very clearly not intended. And Ava finally just says, anybody but me tired of the bullshit burdens of Southern hospitality.
Oh my God. I was so happy when she said this. He came in without even so much as an invite, and I'm really not interested. You can go make your own damn fried chicken if that's what you want to do. Yeah. I was like, yep, that seems fair.
Yeah, and we've talked about how both Avery Markham and Catherine are exceedingly good at using their manners to be as invasive and frightening as possible. Mm-hmm. So I like that they just said, like, really? We're still on this? This sucks.
Not to mention, he points out, like, yeah, last time I might have had chicken with y'all and also nearly killed this guy, so...
Yeah.
And Boyd's like, maybe this time it ends different. And Raylan just says, I'm sure it would. And I'm like, yeah, Boyd, don't phrase it like that, because that can easily be taken in a different direction. But he doesn't... I don't know if he realized that when he said it, but when Raylan replies with, yes, it could, Boyd just doesn't blink because, he's used to this guy, I think. I don't think Raylan scares him anymore.
No, I don't either. So we leave Ava as we go to Calhoun's real estate office where Ty, Seabass, and Choo Choo are figuring out what to do with the body. And Seabass points out that Caprice, the prostitute, saw he and Choo Choo enter. So Ty asks Seabass to take care of it. Seabass throws a hissy fit. And Choo Choo finally steps up and says, it's my mistake. I'll take care of it. And that takes us into our opening credits.
Now, this killed me because it's fucking Choo Choo who brings up this woman. You know, like, Seabass is about to be like, hey, yeah, I think nobody saw. We'll probably be fine. And Choo Choo's like, that woman. And Seabass looks like he wants to cry a little bit. Like, he just does not want to be... He didn't want to do this, which is really kind of proving Raylan's later point. They know how to shoot, but they don't know crime. Because if you were a criminal, there would be no, I didn't want to deal with that. You would know you had to deal with that. Because if they hadn't wound up finding this guy's body because it's so poorly hidden, I can't get over how bad they are at this. If they hadn't found his body, the guy goes missing. She's going to be one of the first people they talk to anyway, because they knew she was around. Like, she's the one who told Raylan half of the shit that was going on because the guy didn't want to speak up for himself. So, I'm sure they're not aware of how involved she is in the whole thing, but that's kind of the point, is that they don't know, and you've got to clear up every loose end. That's why I can't be in this kind of business, man. You're just like, there's loose ends everywhere, and you just have to be willing to just like treat it like a to-do list, and they're not down with that. This isn't the kind of thing that they like think that they signed up for. I don't think they realized how far this was going to spread.
Agreed.
It's like cracks in a windshield that just start to fan out, and you're like, wait, come back. But it's too late, man. You got to just replace that whole windshield now. Is
No,
that
like everyone
evocative?
else, very yes. The imagery is striking. But yeah, I think like everybody else who's come to Harlan, they expected to go and push around some locals and do this, menial job for their well-paid, their boss who's going to pay them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they would have to rough up some people, but that's it. And then it turns out nobody here wants anything to do with them. Nobody wants to move. They generally don't want their money. And all of a sudden, this got a whole lot harder than they expected.
This is something that, like, I think about all the time. And it's in this show with, because they're assuming we can just show these people a suitcase full of money and they will take it and be glad. And that's not what happens. Do you think in life that would be true? Because I really think people are going to take that money.
I don't know, because I feel like my impulse, especially after this week, is I don't know what the hell I would do, because God, I could use a whole bunch of money. But the truth of it is, I think I would look at that and go, this is way too good to be true. There's some strings attached here, or I'm about to get arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I would pass. If it was like $500, not to sell my house necessarily, but if someone says, throw me $500, that's something I'd probably consider more than here's a briefcase of money for your house.
I mean, I wouldn't take it on the front steps, like, just from the guy. But if my realtor's coming at me with those kinds of offers, which it seems like they were going through him at times, I would take that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. If they said they're going to pay me in cash, I might get a little squirrely if they actually showed up with like singles.
Right.
But it's
battered looking singles too.
Exactly. But I don't know. I guess
because that was a
what...
huge plot point in Daredevil when I was covering that with Maggie, is that somebody's trying to buy out these people from their apartment building, and it's this like shitty apartment building people are getting offered hundreds of thousands of dollars to move out, and it's really hard for me to comprehend choosing to stay instead of taking that money and moving literally anywhere you want. If you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can go get a house in the suburbs, especially because the woman in question was like an old lady. I'm like, why do you even want to still be here, lady? And I know that it's supposed to be, in the case of like this show and Daredevil, like the principle of the thing, this is my family's land and that kind, but that is just so not a thing for me. Like, I don't have anything that's been handed down like that, so that concept doesn't hold any water. And the idea that somebody would turn down life-changing amounts of money for a shit house that they've always lived in, just because, I just can't understand that one at all.
I buy it a lot less in a show like Daredevil, because New York is, it's not a place where people put down roots. Not really. Not in the traditional way that people think about that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Something about, just a lot of it is just stuff I've seen from this show, from reading Winter's Bone, from looking at, I've just picked up little bits of it here and there, but like the Appalachian culture, it's very insular and very distrustful of anybody who promises to change their lives. I could see them rejecting something like that a whole lot more than I could see, like you said, an old lady in an apartment building in the middle of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That's a situation where it's like, all right, fine. Yeah, great. I'll go buy myself, like you said, a $200,000 house, and I'll keep the other $300,000 to send my grandchildren to college and pay off all my debt for me to go get a timeshare in Key West.
Yeah. I understand not wanting to be pushed around for nothing, but when somebody's offering you the amounts that like I said, life-changing amounts of money where you can pay off all of your debt and you can set up family and you can, if you're younger, start a whole new life, like, just don't sign me up. Fucking take my fucking house. I don't care.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, we're off topic here.
So, Seabass complains. Choo Choo agrees to do it. Seabass also insults Choo Choo, like, almost to his face. He's not actually facing him, but he's right there.
It's worse than to his face. He's talking about him like he's not there. It's like, it's so insulting.
Yeah. But Choo-Choo does sort of grit his teeth and say, yeah, my mistake. I'll take care of it.
Yeah, when he says, why do you expect me to always carry his dumb ass? He pulls back like he was slapped.
Yes.
Like he just looks so, Chooch, I'm sorry, buddy. I love you.
Yeah. So we go to our credits, we come back, and we are on Ava's front porch, and Zachariah has shown up to talk to her. And they they reminisce for a little bit about Ava's father and how he died in a mine shaft or mine collapse several years ago.
Oh yeah.
Which is actually nice to hear.
For like days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yikes.
And I liked hearing a little bit about Ava's family because we didn't really ever before. But we also hear about how stubborn she was with Bowman and how stubborn he perceives her to be about Boyd. And it's a nice little scene, but Boyd comes out in the middle of it to announce that Earl is all moved into the house. He's going to live in the guest room, and he's not only going to be Ava's bodyguard, but he is going to be like her butler. Whatever she needs, he is at her beck and call.
I can't. That kid just creeps me out, man. Living with him, no, thank you. I would feel so much less safe with him in the house. And he's on his best behavior around her. But after what we've seen with the way he behaves with like his boyfriend, his partner, like I'm not really sure, but he just seems like a bad dude.
Yeah, I have more sympathy for him after this episode than at any other point so far. But at the end of the day, yeah, you can't just erase all the other stuff that we've seen him do. He's clearly not a nice guy. Ava, before they go to head out, Ava talks to Boyd because she's concerned about, she tells him at least, she's concerned about her uncle because he's kind of a wild card. He's got a bit of a history. Mm-hmm. And he reassures her that he's got everything under control. I wonder how much of that was genuine on her part and how much of it is her just trying to get her uncle out of the line of fire.
I kind of feel like that one.
Yeah.
Because, in the end, if he's working with Boyd, she's going to have to narc on him too, and that's like even worse than anything,
Okay. So you don't think it's out of concern for Boyd, really? At least not right now.
No, not really. I feel like she's kind of trying to alleviate her own guilt here.
That's fair. Also, we get a lot of close-ups of Zachariah in this. Jeff Fahey has fantastic eyes.
He's just a really good-looking guy. Like, they try to make him look must, and he does. He looks a mess. His hair's a mess. His clothes. But, he's just a really good-looking dude. Like, you can't do too much. I'm sorry. Short of having him grow, like, some, beard that basically disfigures his whole face, it's pretty obvious that he's fine.
But Boyd is not concerned. He reassures her he's got this. And they take off. Then we go to Catherine's hotel suite, where we get a marriage proposal.
Oh my God, this was so funny.
Yeah, and Catherine's not really into it.
She walks in and just, what does she say? She's like, Mother of God or something like that. Yeah. Jesus H. Christ. That's what she says. Which, that thing is a goddamn doorknob. Like,
yeah.
It's like the size of a light bulb. That thing would weigh your hand down.
It looks like costume jewelry.
Yeah. I saw that for a second. I was like, what? And initially, when he's like, accuses her of having been the snitch, I had the same reaction that she did, where I was like, oh my God, he wasn't the guy. And then like an instant later, I'm like, oh no, this guy is good. He's just totally the guy, and he's just fucking playing her. And they have the camera over her shoulder when they hug each other on his face. And he has this look that's really hard for me to read. I can't decide what that meant.
I wrote that he was stone-faced because right before then, she's shocked that he accuses her of being the snitch or asks her to come clean about it. And she goes, "No, I wasn't the snitch." And he says, "Well, it doesn't really matter. I made my peace with this a long time ago. The past is the past." And they embrace, and we get close-ups of both of them.
Yep.
And she looks completely shell-shocked. It's the first time we've seen her look anything other than totally confident.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, to me, he's gone from the past is the past. It's fine. I've made my peace with this. All I want now is to marry you. And then we cut back to him, and his expression is blank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I feel like it's got to be him playing her, right? Or because, I mean, obviously they could overlap, but did he figure out that she's trying to kill him? And that, and like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I like this. These two, yeah. I'm a fan of what's happening here.
He is a shrewd motherfucker.
Yep.
So we leave the comfortable hotel room and instead we go out to the deep woods. And Raylan and Tim have been taken to see Calhoun's body that were found by these two detectives, Costanza and Butler.
I cannot get over how funny this scene is. Like, it's not really supposed to be funny, but there's just something about the way that everything gets slowly revealed about, it's bear season and and we found the body like in a shallow grave. Oh, and his ID was on him. Oh, and a marshal's card was in his pocket. Like, there's just, they slowly dole out the little bits as they go of just how badly this was done. This is just so badly done.
Yeah. Yeah, something tells me, I feel like Walker and Seabass spent this entire thing arguing, and they both just wanted to get it done as quickly as possible so they could get away from each other.
I just don't okay, I don't know about the kind of training that you have when you do what they did, but I would imagine, I guess disposing of bodies isn't part of that, because as a soldier you don't need to worry about keeping that secret.
Yeah.
But I would think that there would be some sort of very basic, even if it's about finding bodies on, coming at it from the other way. I don't know. Yep. It's just crazy to me that they don't seem to okay, Alan, if you had to get rid of a body, what would you do? How would you handle that?
Burn it.
Okay.
I'd find an orchard. Actually, I know of a couple of orchards, and I would go out. I would find somewhere far in the distance, and I would find a nice little corner, set a fire, and let it go.
Okay, so you have to get a body to 600 degrees or something like that in order to get the bone to burn. It's a crazy high temperature. So unless you manage that, you have bones left. Then what do you do?
Well, at that point, I would say the evidence is most likely gone off the body. So I would feel pretty confident that I'm okay. I guess it depends on the surrounding circumstances otherwise. I
mean, the evidence, am
I trying to say that this thing never ever existed, or am I trying to erase any chance that
I would think that you would want to erase any chance, because if they find the bones, that's a crime scene. And they're going to sweep the whole area for your prints, or footprints, not fingerprints, but fibers, whatever left around, and burning a body and dragging it and everything. I feel like that's going to leave a trail unless you make it like that never happened. Okay, so cremating takes 1400 to 1800 degrees. The average weighted remains take 2 to 2.5 hours to burn to ash.
Well, yeah, and again, my intention in this, it wouldn't be to cremate again. Not to burn it down to cinders, right, but simply to burn it into unrecognizability. Certainly, without anything that would link it to me.
Okay, I'm thinking weighing that body down and dumping it over a bridge. That's just you have to just, the main thing is to make sure that body is weighed the fuck down. Be very, very thorough in how that's handled. And then you're good, right? They don't ever find it unless they have any inkling that they need to drag the river, which is, if you didn't commit the crime anywhere near there, wouldn't necessarily be where they'd look.
That's fair. I think you would need to find a body of water that is big enough and deep enough, and a bridge that is isolated enough. And I don't know if in my current location I can think of anything like that.
There's Bridge in Higginham that I think of like automatically when I think of doing this, because having worked out there.
I was going to say, you've clearly thought about this far more than I have.
I'm just like, I'm somebody who watches shows like this, and so this kind of thing goes through my mind, and it just feels like these guys have never thought about how to handle this before, which just seems so unlikely. It's not even the first time that they've just committed straight murder.
It's true.
On this job. So what have they done in the past? How have they handled this before?
Well, I also get the feeling before, like when we saw them with the older couple, that was done under orders of Markham, so Markham knows where they are and what they're doing. In this case, he's clearly taken by surprise, which means they had to get rid of this thing before he came back. So it could have just been them operating under pressure on a limited time frame.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, okay, that's fair. I just really, everything about this is just so, I feel almost bad for them, like how embarrassing this is. And I kind of feel like Avery's just, at this point, realizing that his crew is a bunch of rubes. Like, yeah. But, yeah. Anyway.
I think for me, see, now you got me thinking about this, but I feel like everything that I come up with, I just go like, yeah, but I wouldn't do that. Like, the smart thing to do, of course, is to chop the body into small pieces. But right. I'm not gonna do that. Absolutely I just know that I'm not.
Nope.
And
nope.
And I think anytime I could, I felt this way about like zombie apocalypse stuff as well. Could I see myself in a situation where I could kill somebody in cold blood who was not like actively trying to kill me? Yeah, I actually could. How do I think I would handle it afterwards? Very poorly. I would get depressed. I'd get depressed and kill myself. That's what would happen.
Right.
So I guess how long the body is going to sit there isn't top of my list, because I will probably be sucking fumes long before then.
That phrasing. Okay,
sorry.
Moving on.
Anyway, so yeah, we find the corpse. It really does look like they threw a little bit of dirt on top of it and just hoped a bear would show up.
Mm-hmm.
They have the card, and Raylan's like, he's my realtor. They leave. They go to the pizza portal, and then they question Avery about Calhoun's death. He doesn't know anything.
And they point out to Raylan, yeah, you would think that this guy had been like beaten with a fucking baseball bat, but there are knuckle marks. This guy was knocked out with one punch, murdered with one punch. And him and Tim like look at each other, and he's like, oh, like he was hit by a train. It's like, oh, Raylan, stop it.
Yeah, but so they're at the pizza portal. They talk to Avery, and again, this is the first that Avery's heard about this very clearly, which is good for him because that's a nice alibi. But Raylan notices Choo Choo is missing, and
points that shit out.
Oh, absolutely! It's very clear to point that out. And this is where he says that, yeah, you hired mercenaries that know killing, but they don't know crime. And then they leave. He leaves his card on the bar and says, call him if they happen to see Choo Choo. And as they leave, Avery turns back to Ty and Seabass and says, it seems like you boys have something to tell me.
The expression when Raylan tells him, and he looks back at them and then looks at Raylan and says, if he's dead, this is the first I'm hearing of it. I was like, oh, shit. Like, he was real scary there for a second. I did not want to be in their fucking shoes on that. Oy, oy, oy.
No, definitely not. No. Speaking of Choo Choo, he meets up with Caprice on like a random loading dock in the middle. And she gets in the car and they talk.
I
And
mean,
they
I
have a
knew
moment.
he wasn't going to be able to do this.
I know.
Right? Like, didn't you know that? As soon as he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'll do it, I'm like, no, you won't.
Oh, yeah. Or I think it's going to be one of those things that if he could do it, it would haunt him the rest of the season and eventually lead to his downfall.
Yeah, or that,
you know,
yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, this was not going to be something that he was going to follow through on in any kind of easy way.
Mm-hmm.
But while they're talking, and obviously she is paid to be nice to him in this instance, but they share a moment. And it's kind of sweet.
Yeah, it was sweet. I mean,
And-
she's adorable, you know? I like her.
Yeah, I do too. And the scene ends with him just saying, "You ever wish things weren't the way they were?"
So much.
Yeah.
So much, buddy. Yep. So many, many times throughout the day.
But I like he clearly can't articulate what it is that he is going with, the reason that he is really here to her, and he knows that much.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying so hard to explain this to her, but he can't say it, and he doesn't have the RAM to come up with anything better than that.
The RAM. That's funny.
Yeah. So we then go back to Boyd and Zachariah, and they are heading down into the number 14 Obsidian Mine with Carl and the pig. And they are in full mining gear, hard hats, lamps, coveralls, the whole deal.
Yeah, they are prepped.
And Carl's afraid of rattlesnakes, so he brought his pistol. And Zachariah sees it and says, "What are you thinking? You're going to blow up this entire place."
I mean, right? Did they not just all live through a fucking explosion just last episode? Have we learned nothing? Carl.
Seriously.
That made me so mad.
But
I think that me liking Carl to a certain degree, I give him more benefit of the doubt in terms of his intelligence than he necessarily deserves. But I was kind of shocked when I saw him pull that. I was like, you idiot.
Yeah. And, and I almost feel like that's one of those plot things where if you see Zachariah, by the end of this movie, like he is scheming here. Like, well, really? That nobody would have a gun? It was like,
right.
Well, no. We need to establish that no one has a gun because of this.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, Carl's a dummy. And no guns. They turn on their generator. And they go to work in this horrible, horrible mine shaft. I was actually, speaking of mine shafts, I was just listening to another one of my favorite podcasts called 99% Invisible, where they talk about design and how it's integrated into our world and how a lot of the times we don't see but are really important.
Okay.
And they were talking about mine safety, actually, and the miner culture in Appalachia and the South, and how one of the big things was about stickers that they have on their hard hats, and how lots of them will collect these stickers, and they get stickers for all kinds of special things, and they treat you better. They will, like, if you show up to drop them off stuff, if you bring good stickers, they'll get to your stuff first. And how the government tried to utilize these stickers and design stickers that would get them excited, so that way they could educate them on mine safety and new regulations that are being put into place to try to make it as safe and as non-toxic as possible. But it's this whole little thing about the culture of people who are career miners, and just given our content for this season, I found it really, really interesting.
Yeah, that is such a weird, it's so funny how we have these little things that to us make total sense in the context, but when somebody hears about it from the outside, they're just like, what? Really? Sticker? Okay, like, I guess. Meanwhile, you're just like, yes, stickers!
But it's true in school too. When you're a kid in elementary school, you can get a sticker if you do X, you're doing X. When you're in high school, you can be 16, 17, you say, yeah, if you do, if you turn in your homework to me, it's due Wednesday, but you get it to me Tuesday, and you get a sticker, someone is fishing for stickers. You know
what's the thing I remember in high school was gum. Everybody wanted gum. You remember that?
Yeah, I do, and I do not understand the obsession with high school and gum.
I don't get it either. That was just one of those things that if you had a pack of gum, you were the coolest kid in class that day.
Right?
Like, it was just, I don't know why, but yeah. Anyway.
Weird man. So our miners go to work here. And then we go back to the Marshall station where Art has stolen Rachel's parking space.
Lol.
And he's dropped by to ask her about the Hale Task Force, which it turns out she was a part of almost, when she was a wee baby Marshall.
Yeah.
And this has clearly been eating him up since his conversation with Raylan.
I mean, I wish that he would talk to Raylan so that Raylan could hear about this Catherine lady and start to put some shit together.
Yeah.
But apparently that's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah, he's asking Rachel about the CI that they had, and she goes, that case was made on wiretaps. He goes, he said, I know, but you sure there wasn't a CI? And yeah, she doesn't have any answers for him. She goes I heard maybe it was Avery and the timeline makes sense.
This one really surprised me that there's a potential snitch that they don't even know about, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think that was even a thing, but I guess if you're trying to protect people, they're being pretty good about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Rachel also confides in Art that she thinks Ava tried to run away the day before and Raylan brought her back and never told anybody. And she thinks that it's possible Raylan is sleeping with her again.
Yeah. Maybe. She's sharp. She doesn't miss much.
True. But she doesn't know how to proceed with this because she knows if she follows procedure, she pulls Raylan off the investigation. That means they also have to cut Ava loose. And they have to start this case all over again, basically from scratch.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
I do not judge her at all for not wanting to do that. I get that a lot.
Yeah, so at this point, she probably screwed up in the first place by assigning the two of them together, but she's stuck with it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the two of them end up just sort of sitting in silence as I think she starts to contemplate all the things that she was side-eyeing Art about for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I really liked that moment because she asks him straight up, what would you do? And he gives her a look like, you fucking know what I would do. And her reaction to that is so interesting because it's she looks embarrassed almost for a second. And then realization dawns. And that, I really like Rachel's character. I wish we got to see more of her because she is a purist and wants to do the right thing, but also wants to get the guy, and which takes priority. And that's the classic conundrum with cops, right? Just how bad do you want it? And how sure are you? So seeing her not battling with that privately, battling with that with Art, who she's judged a little bit on this. Yeah. That's kind of neat. I like it.
Yeah, I also appreciate that we do have she's one of the good ones, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Raylan is our protagonist, but he is definitely not.
Right.
And Tim is probably good at his job, but I have a feeling he probably falls a little closer to Raylan than anybody else.
I think in the end he would, yeah.
Yeah, and so I like that we have Rachel, who really is dedicated to the spirit of this Marshall thing, much more so than the other characters that we've seen.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Speaking of Raylan and Tim, we go to them on a stakeout in front of the pizza portal.
The two of them are fun together. I like that we're
are.
getting more of them together this season.
Definitely. And they're talking about Avery's reaction to the news about Calhoun's death, and Raylan feels he doesn't know anything about this.
Mm-hmm.
When Raylan gets a phone call from Ava reporting in, she has snuck a phone call to let him know that she now has a babysitter, and 2, her uncle is now mixed up with Boyd.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells her, if you're close enough, if this guy's close enough that you need to whisper, do not call me, but thank you.
Girl, really? What are... Lady.
Well, and I appreciate as much as he admonishes her, he says thank you. This might be the first time he's ever said thank you to her this season.
Yeah, I think that that thank you was a very pointed, You happy now? I said thank you. Like, yeah, that was funny.
So yeah, but Ava is, as Tim notices, she's back on the job. And she does she's not screaming, she's not crying, she's not concerned for her life. She's just reporting in.
Yeah.
As a good little soldier.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that she's doing what she needs to do because I just don't want her to go back to jail. But also, I just hate watching this happen. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Yeah. I also we see that the car that they're in is sitting right in front of a giant billboard to support Kentucky mining.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That's funny.
Yeah. We go back to Catherine, and she is talking to Wynn Duffy. And he's going over the 4 C's of quality in a diamond. Why not?
I love him so much. Sorry. I just do, though. Duffy, you are so fun.
Well, and of course, he would just talk way too long and way too seriously about the thing that is the last thing in the world she wants to think about.
The thing nobody gives any shits about, yeah.
Yeah, that too. He does eventually get down to business, though, and they talk about uncovering the snitch who sent Grady to prison, and they speculate on whether or not Avery's playing her.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like it's really occurred to her in any significant way before this moment.
It doesn't. She is underestimating him, man, and that's a classic blunder.
Yeah. And it kind of wraps up with Duffy saying, it doesn't matter either way, we're still going to have to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes back and says, oh, it matters. Because if he's playing me, we're going to have to kill him slow.
Yeah, dog. I love Catherine.
She does not like that thought
My
whatsoever.
fave. She my fave. I love her. Yeah, the fact that it didn't occur to her bothers me a little bit, but the fact that once it does occur to her, she completely accepts that is a huge possibility. There's no, he would never, or no, I don't think. She's immediately like, motherfucker. Yep, correct response, lady.
Yeah. So we go back to the pizza portal, and this is Avery and Ty, and this is where this is the discussion as to whether or not Choo Choo has to die.
Mm-hmm.
And Ty's argument is, this guy is my brother in arms. You can't do this. He doesn't have a good argument other than, you can't, man.
The shit that he went through to die this way because I killed him, even though he survived a fucking IED. That's fucked up, man. Your job is fucked up. Welcome. Hi.
Yeah. Yeah. And Avery has an entirely, there's no defense to Avery's point, which is Choo Choo could give them up without even knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he puts it back on Ty and says, real leadership is about making hard choices.
Yeah, he ain't wrong.
You go, oh. So, and then on cue, Ty gets a call from Choo Choo, who tells him that he thinks there might be another way because Caprice has already told him that she's totally not going to tell anybody that she saw them.
Just walks straight up into that point that Avery just made. I mean, that was rough.
Now, we do look back, and it's not like this just came up in conversation. She is bound and gagged in the back of the car.
Right.
So he got at least that far. But, yeah. Ty, on the phone, he just locks eyes with Markham.
Who's looking at him like, I don't even need to hear this conversation. I know exactly what the fuck is happening right now. Oh, man.
Yeah. And then he asks Choo Choo where he is so they can get together and they can talk about it. Poor Chooch.
I feel so bad because it's so predictable.
Yeah.
It
really is. He is kind of like Dewey Crow, much larger in a much shorter amount of time.
He's Dewey Crow, but he's so much more likable to me.
Yes. This is true. Yes, this is true. This is true.
Anyway.
So we then have a scene in Ava's kitchen where Earl is listening to thrash metal.
Of course he is.
He is. And Ava, your love of thrash metal is just seeping in through your words.
Sorry. No offense. If anybody likes this music, that's fine. Like what you like, you weirdo.
And Ava pretty deftly butters him up.
Yeah, she
and
does.
Talks a little bit about his music and his headphones, and and I thought you knew who I was, but when I first saw you, you played dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And she manages to learn some things that.
Yeah, he doesn't even know that she didn't know them already because of the way that she did this. It's pretty good.
So she learns that Boyd's in a mine shaft, and he says, it's Latin Creek, right? And she goes, oh, yeah, that's it. So, score one for Ava.
Yeah, I feel bad for this kid because, it's gonna come back to bite him probably, but, fuck this kid, so it's fine.
Yeah. And if I can just mention, Ava is looking fantastic in that blue top. Just saying. So, we go back to the mine shaft. And this is the big turning point where Zachariah and Boyd are taking a break from drilling, and Boyd steps on some planking that breaks through, and he falls into a hole almost to his death, except he manages to get pinned by the wood.
Yeah. Yeah, this was something that I'm not sure about because I figured that he set this up, but I wasn't sure if he had meant Boyd to survive this or not.
It's a very good question.
So that's my main thing is and he seems to really try to get Boyd out. He puts it, and he could have let him fall, and he doesn't. So I think he meant to get him out, but it's sort of hard for me to tell if he set him up just to get scared. Why would he do that? What exactly is, just like I said, the motivation here is a little bit muddy to me. So I'm interested to see how that turns out.
Yeah, we will have to see where that goes because Boyd is... Zachariah leaps into action as soon as he sees that Boyd is here. And he's immediately started barking out orders. He gets everybody in the right positions to get him out and save him from certain death, really. So Boyd is sitting there, again, catching his breath. He was just talking about how he hasn't been down this far in a mine in a really long time, and he kind of promised himself he'd never go back into one of these things. Mm-hmm. But he wants to resume drilling. And Zachariah is saying, no way, man, you are done for the day.
Yeah, which, seems like solid advice,
Right.
There's nothing, I was already suspicious, so this didn't make it worse, but it wouldn't have anyway. This wouldn't have raised my suspicions at all. I was just kind of that seems reasonable. You almost die, you take a break now. But... Right.
So reluctantly Boyd leaves, and Zachariah and the pig are going to keep on digging. And by the time Boyd comes back the next morning, they are going to be halfway to China or something, he says.
Yep.
And then we go to a clearing in the woods where Choo-Choo and Caprice are waiting, and we see Ty in a pair of Ensign Rickies.
Yeah. Yeah, this completely took me by surprise because Raylan and Tim are here. Did not see that coming. I was so delighted. I almost clapped when they popped out. I was like, oh shit. But yeah, I really didn't think that they were keeping as close an eye on this. I don't know why. They were fucking watching the place. I knew that. But I guess when he mentions, I guess you were just a little distracted. I think that was why that I figured they would have noticed, and they didn't. They got a lot going on.
They do. But yeah, before Raylan and Tim make their appearance, Ty talks to Choo-Choo, and Choo-Choo will not give Caprice up to them. Mm-hmm. And he says she shouldn't have to die for his mistake. And Ty tries to reason with him, and then he tries to order him, and Choo-Choo won't move.
Chooch.
And then Raylan and Tim show up. And they were telling them since the pizza portal. And Raylan tries to convince Choo-Choo that Ty and the others are here to kill him. And Ty is arguing that Raylan is trying to turn them against one another. Mm-hmm. And Choo Choo does seem like he seems like he's following this. He's not like, I'm so confused.
No, yeah, he totally gets what's happening here, 100%.
Yeah. And it isn't until Raylan says you can't still be taking his orders when he kind of says, this is all I've got.
Yeah.
And so he goes for the draw, and before he can even level that gun, he's been shot twice. And he staggers and does not go down. Everything erupts in the firefight. Both of the Ensign Rickies go down. And Ty takes at least one hit, scrambling back to his car. And he takes off as fast as it can.
I was really surprised at how willing Ty was to just go balls out here.
Yeah.
I mean, he basically is just like, yeah, we're a bunch of murderers and we're just going to murder. That's what's going to go down here. And, whatever. Like, what's he going to do now? He can't go back, right? He can't go to Avery and be like, oh, yeah, they're after us. They saw us almost kill our friend. They heard us, say that we were going to kill this woman. I wouldn't think.
It's a very good question.
If he does, he's a dummy. Like, he needs to run now. That's done.
Yeah. I want to mention Garrett Dillahunt, who's Ty in the scene. I love him in this scene. Just the look on his face as he's walking up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Whole conversation. He hates every second of this.
Yeah.
And you can really see how pained he is by the fact he's doing this. It's not going to stop him from doing it.
Yep.
But yeah, I really appreciate just the little subtleties in what he's doing here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he got a lot more of an opportunity to do some real acting in this episode than he has the whole rest of this season.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking. It really was.
But yeah, Ty does get away. And then Choo Choo gets hit a third time, maybe even a fourth time.
I think 3.
But yeah, he also manages to get in his car and drive away, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, these guys, I guess they got trained to take this shit and keep going.
Yeah, that's true.
They fucking soldier on is where that comes from, right?
But Ty looks like he gets winged because he kind of does a spin as he's going down the hill. Mm-hmm. Choo Choo takes 3 straight on. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't even fall. But Choo Choo takes off, and Raylan and Tim fill his car full of bullet holes. He loses a tire, the whole deal. But he disappears into the woods. So, story's not quite over yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I really wonder what the hell they're going to be doing there, but we'll see.
So back in the mine shaft, this is Zachariah and the pig, and they're preparing to shut down for the night. And the pig notices that the boards that gave way under Boyd weren't rotted; they were cut. Mm-hmm. And Zachariah sees it, goes, oh, "Would you look at that? Wow, that's quite a pair of highs on you." And they both sort of take a beat, and he goes, well, "That's a shame," and just pushes him into the mine shaft, and he falls to his death, screaming like a flunky in a movie, I guess. It would have been a perfect place for the Wilhelm scream.
I just that guy when he puts his hand on your back and says that's a shame, man, you need to do something. It was so hard to just watch him sitting there. I get why he did. I mean, I understand that he didn't suspect a thing, and that's totally understandable, but it was super hard to sit there and watch. Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah, that's I can't go into that squatting position with somebody. It was someone puts their hand behind me. So there's always that they are going to knock me on my head. I know it. I don't have that much faith in other people, I think.
Especially when you're perched on the edge of a hole that's hundreds of feet deep.
Yeah, let alone when we're in,
Yikes.
Let alone when we're here. But, he takes a spill. And then Zachariah stands up, and he kind of takes a second, and then just screams into the walkie-talkie for help.
He is pretty good there. Yes. I like that little moment where he's just kind of does that actor's get into the zone.
Right.
Yeah,
he
that's
should
pretty
be
good.
Using his fingers in front of him to center himself.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But there's clearly a man who's had to do this before, so it's probably not too much of a stretch for him. All right, back in the clearing, Rachel is debriefing Tim and Raylan, and Caprice is being tended to in an ambulance. And Caprice has confirmed Choo-Choo and Seabass were at the scene of Calhoun's death.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel's put out a bulletin to try and grab Seabass before he hears about what happened.
Yeah, fuck that guy. I hope they get him.
Yeah. There are also an additional 50 deputy marshals coming from everywhere from Atlanta to Cincinnati, and every cop within 100 miles is a printout of Choo-Choo and Walker's faces.
And this is super surprising to me because they, were not even quite halfway through the season, and our main bad guys are gone. Like, not gone, but the crew is really hit. And
yes,
in a very legitimate, sticking way. Like, this is going to stick, In
this 45 minutes, Avery's plan has gone to hell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm just really surprised, like, what happens now? He's going to have to try and scrape things back together, and I don't even know what that looks like. Well, now that everybody kind of knows what he's been up to, how do you manage to get your act together again?
That's a good question. Rachel tells Tim, go get your rifle, and she tells Raylan she's canceling his critical incident leave until after reinforcements arrive.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when she and Raylan are alone, he asks if he's heard from Ava that day. And when he says, like, yeah, she called in earlier, she kind of stands there and looks at him and is waiting for something.
Yeah.
And all he says, was there something else? And she, again, continues to stand there and continues to say nothing.
Yeah, she just goes, nope. She doesn't even say no, but she makes that face. And I was just like, oh, girl, he's going to notice some shit.
Yeah, so, again, we'll see what's up with that. But Rachel has her suspicions. Then we come to the train tracks. And Choo-Choo rolls to a stop.
This was so terrible. I don't like it. I don't even want to talk about it. Can we skip this scene?
So is this where we do?
I'm only like kind of joking.
So yeah, rolls to a stop, totally unintentionally, because Choo-Choo's very surprised to see gates go down in front of him and behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a train coming, and the brakes are sparking, and the horn is blaring, and he's just watching the train. It's wonderful symbolism until the train actually manages to grind to a halt before it hits the car.
Bless him. He watches it coming and is just kind of like, well, I guess that's what's happening. And I really was like, I guess that's what's happening. And then he's gone, and I was like, oh. On the one hand, it's a more dignified death than him being smushed by a train, so I kind of like that he didn't die that way.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, it's so sad.
Yeah.
I'm so sad.
And the conductor and the engineer get off screaming bloody murder. What the hell are you doing? Who is stupid enough to... And they get there and go, oh.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter. So yeah, poor Choo-Choo has died of blood loss. And then we get to our final scene.
Yeah.
Where Boyd returns home and she finds Ava learning about the finer points of thrash metal.
Oh my god. This was like one of those... This whole thing... Well, all right, you finish and then I'm going to talk about it. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, all right.
I'm holding myself back.
And they banter for a little bit, and Boyd is just kind of getting settled from the day when his cell phone rings. And of all people, it is Elston Limehouse.
Yeah.
And he's just calling to offer Boyd some information as a good faith gesture.
Yeah, this was one of those moments where initially I'm like, oh, really? As a good faith gesture? You are so full of shit right now. And I thought, this is really out of character. And then when I thought about it for a second longer, I was like, oh, this makes total sense. He's going to be implicated if Ava talks. Like, him and Boyd have done all kinds of shit. I would think Boyd, that connection would come to light at some point and fuck him up too, probably. But initially I was just kind of like, wait, what? No. But yeah, so this caught me by surprise. It really did.
Yeah. Yeah, it turns out he's given Boyd information and he's doing it for free. He says, has Ava told you anything about what she got up to yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, and I love, he refers to it as something that they call an unknown unknown. And I've always loved those phrases. And I remember when it was like 15 years ago, Donald Rumsfeld, I think, used the term, the known knowns and the known unknowns and the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns.
Yep.
And everybody just took him to task for what a ridiculous phrase it was. I'm like, it makes sense to me. I don't know what everybody finds so complicated. But yeah, it's one of them unknown unknowns. And yeah, he asked, do you know what Ava got up to yesterday? And then we just cut back to Boyd listening and looking into the kitchen.
Yeah, he looks pissed. I feel like I just hate this so much. I mean, not like the plot. It's great, but it's so awful.
It's pretty hard to watch. Yeah. So, jig's up. At least some of it.
I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, what's Boyd's reaction? Now, actually, let me ask, first reaction, when he gets off the phone, what does he do?
He can't say anything, right? He has to try and act like everything's normal, I would imagine.
That's my guess, too. What happens the next day?
The only thing I can think... The thing that I think, really, is that he gives Ava some money and tells her to fucking leave. I don't think he can kill her. I don't think he could ask somebody to kill her. Okay. I don't think he could do it. I think he would like get up to the point and not be able to do it. The most I could say is that he could get someone else to do it and just not be there for it. But I feel like he's got it. I feel like he's going to try and get her to leave, and that's not going to be what happens. But I think it's what he'll try to do. So
you think he jumps right to she's either got to die or she's got to go?
I mean, the only other thing is to keep on feeding her false information, which he could do.
Okay.
But it's really not going to be long before it starts to be proven that it's false information, before they start to catch on. Like, he's got to know.
Well, let me ask, what does Limehouse tell him? What does Limehouse know?
I mean, all he has to tell him is, like, she tried to fucking skip town.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like that speaks for itself a little bit. Although, I guess the only reason that he knows of for her trying to skip town, like, she didn't tell him the truth about the conversation with Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't think Limehouse knows that she's a snitch.
Yeah, I guess he probably doesn't. I guess that's true. So it's just that she tried to run, which I don't know what Boyd will make of that, because she was, being pretty clear in the car that when he said that they were going to stay in Harlan, he was not excited about that. Or that she was not excited about that. And he was like, well, what the hell? You wanted to stay here and now all of a sudden. So I don't know what he would, how he would explain that.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, but suddenly her position has gotten very, very precarious, which is too bad because it finally seemed like she was settling into this role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, this sucks. I'm invested, though. This season's really good. I really like it.
Right on.
I'm here for it.
Woohoo! All right. And that's our episode. We end with Ava cooking dinner and Boyd looking not so happy.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to wrap this up because I feel like crap and I want to go lay down. So, I'm going to say hi to new patrons real quick. This week we have Jack Landis, Nicole Jones, Sarah Wieland, Kristen Collins, Kimberly Slack, SLO1990, Nick Leo, Jolie Storm, and Siri Leafsdaughter, which is a cool name. Siri Leafsdaughter. So welcome to all of you guys. Right? And those of you who are $5 and above are going to get immediate access to my my Twin Peaks coverage with Maggie. And I just watched the 3rd and 4th episode of season 3, and they are bananas. Like, I thought the first 2 were bananas, but these that he keeps proving me wrong. David Lynch is like, "Oh, you thought that was weird? No, listen, hold my beer." And I'm really enjoying it. It's just so good to have him back in Twin Peaks because season 2 was rough. So welcome back, David. And yeah, I think that's like all I have to announce for now. Is there anything you'd like to add, sir?
No, nothing new. You guys know my Twitter by now, and that's most of the places you're going to find me, except for right here at Unspoiled. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, you guys know where to find us. Facebook.com/UnspoiledPod, Twitter at Unspoiled Show, Instagram at Unspoiled Podcast, and unspoiledpodcast.com. And you can become a patron at patreon.com/unspoiled and get access to a ton of legacy episodes, get access to Twin Peaks if you do $5 or more, get access to the monthly patrons only postcard that I mail out every month for $10 and up. And now $20 and up patrons are going to get a twice weekly live recording of me and Rashawn doing Harry Potter. We record on Friday nights, so I feel like that's a good night for everybody to, come on and join us and have some drinks and listen to us talk about Harry Potter, especially since now we're not worrying about people spoiling stuff in the chat anymore, so we can be more relaxed. So, yeah, that's going to be the first one that we're going to do is actually tomorrow because I record on Thursdays with Alan. So I'm excited. Hopefully it goes smoothly. Fingers crossed. Knocking on the woods. But, yeah, I'm excited about that. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, sir, for being here with me this evening. And we will see you next week with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I'm fighting for my soul, God get at you, boy. You try to go, God fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I see them long, hard times to come. My life is ill, son, prepared to kill, son. Paradox of pain, baby, is real, son. Lonely traveler, ain't trying to value you, but if you're feeling tough, dog, I walk up all challenges. Ain't got no family.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.